Dan and Corey here, welcoming you into Libservative.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back.
To another rousing edition of Libservative. We're all set up. We got Bell's audio fixed. He's Corey Walsh.
He's Dan Griffin. And then that's Bell. We got Bell over here.
Way back there, Bell the Body Snatcher. The newest member of our team. He's got fresh blood on his clothes. We're all ready to go.
True story.
You know, it's funny is people are going to think we're kidding, but he really does have fresh blood on his clothes.
Now they're really going to think you're kidding because they're going to be like, ain't no way.
Oh, you know who else has fresh blood on the mind right now, Corey?
Who? Me.
Tim Pool haters.
Oh, Tim Pool haters.
Tim Pool's giving up. He's quitting. And
He's throwing in the towel. He's
because
taking off the hat so no one can recognize him.
He basically has no sense of humor and backed himself into an ideological corner. And then when his values caught up with him, he wondered why the people that
he was sad
all of a sudden hate him. Anyway, great Twitter feed. But before we get into any of this stuff, Corey, tell the people all the places in which they can find us.
Well, Dan, Libservative Podcast is found on all social media podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today.
Not tomorrow.
No, just do it right now. Just do it real quick. Just push that button.
Yesterday, preferably. If you know a Tim Pool fan, please send them our way.
Yeah, hey, if you're a previous Tim Pool fan, welcome. You know, he's obviously throwing in the towel, so it's going to create a vacuum for all his listeners. And you can come hang out with us. We don't grift, so if you're looking for grifters, go hang out with Crowder or the Daily Wire. But we're here, or what's a left grift? Pod Save America.
Ooh, that's brutal.
Oof,
that's a rough one. Or David Pakman. David Pakman is another interesting one on the left. That's
Does
not
Occupy Democrats have a podcast? Because
they probably do, but we would never subject our brains to even 2 minutes of that nonsense. My take on Tim Pool is pretty simple. A, have a sense of humor. That's like number one. And then B, don't back yourself into an ideological corner. Right? Because we've had this situation where
here's the thread. And then all the people talking.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's got he needs some fucking Zoloft or something. This guy's lost it. He had like a 12 tweet thread about why
should I shut down Twitter? Hey, real quick, go back up to that one. Go back up to that. Should I shut down Twitter? And just click yes. Or should I shut down Tim Castor at Twitter?
I'm not even logged in.
That's all right. I took this poll like 10 minutes ago, and it was 56% yes, he should shut down Tim Cast, and 44% no.
Go back up to his face real quick. You can just see it. Look how sad he looks.
His problem
he just looks sad.
God, his bald head underneath that hat. His problem is that he takes himself too seriously. He takes himself too seriously. He's backed himself into an ideological corner, right? Because we've talked about this on the left before, right, Corey? Where the woke snake starts to kind of begin to eat its own tail on the left, right? We've seen a lot of this,
right?
To where people that were previously on the left are suddenly getting quote unquote canceled. It happens on the right too, right? So like when you tie yourself to people on the cultural right and you build this fan base of people that just hate leftism or whatever it is, you know, fucking hate socialism or hate wokeism or whatever, and you make that your fan base. Well, now when your values catch up to your message and they don't intertwine anymore, you end up in the place that Tim Pool is in, to where he's he's lost. He's absolutely lost. And
Yeah,
that's
you kind of feel bad for him a little bit because
a little bit. If he had, if
I
maybe
didn't,
he had a sense
I
of
was
humor.
never a Tim guy. I don't know what his shows in the beginning were like. I don't know if there was like a snowball effect to where there was a point in the beginning where he had good intentions, and then he saw just low hanging fruit, of grifting to a certain sect, to where now he's finally at this point where he's like, I'm just not happy. Because that's ultimately what this is. That's the only reason he's even saying this. He's not happy with what he's doing right now.
Yeah, and
but actually, that's the thing is like he's making money doing this, but he's not happy.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's a matter of maybe he's just been dishonest with himself for too long, because like Tim Pool, we were talking about this before the show. He's gotten a couple of things right. His coverage of COVID lockdowns very, very early on was good. Like he nailed it. And the other one was the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. And you and I talk about this on and off once in a while about how there are actually still people out there that think Kyle Rittenhouse is a fucking murderer.
I know. And they think that he murdered black people.
That makes it even worse. That makes it even
there's
worse.
People that still think that.
When, he was defending himself, he killed white people, one of which was a pedophile, and another one of which was attacking him with a firearm.
And then the third one was attacking him with a skateboard. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is this R.I.P. Tim Pool? I don't know. I don't mean that literally. I don't want Tim Pool to die. I'm not that big of an asshole.
Yeah. Who are you? Lauren Boebert sitting on a church stage
talking about
show.
Yeah, there's been a reckoning in conservative media lately, hasn't there been? Is this more people recognizing that there's either a grift going on, or because I don't think Tim Pool's a grifter. As much as I don't like Tim Pool, I don't think he's a grifter. I do think he honestly cares about the things that he discusses on his show. The problem I have with Tim Pool is that he takes himself way too seriously, and he has absolutely no sense of humor, and he's backed himself into a corner. Honestly, if I had a private conversation with Tim Pool,
we'd probably get along great.
I'd probably get along with him. I really probably would. But man, his content makes me want to throw up. that makes, I don't know. Anyway, that was how I didn't mean to start the show that way, Corey. We can move on unless you have something to add.
Nope.
You had to think about it for a second. You had to think about it.
I had to think about it, and I was like, no, not really.
Hey, what do you mean you shit on Tim Pool 3 weeks in a row now? I'm like, yeah, I shit on Tim Pool. That's because I have a fucking sense of humor. Sorry.
and hair.
And hair. Yeah, I showed that. Yeah, sorry, not sorry. Corey, what are you drinking? What are you consuming?
So currently,
those are the same thing.
Yes, I am drinking some. We need to figure out a way to get these people to sponsor us for propagating these things that become vices and kill people.
Any whiskey.
I'm drinking some Rabbit Hole Cave Hill. This is just a damn good bourbon. It has a nice smoky, smooth taste to it. Nice vanilla. And then drinking some champagne and beers to wash it down. And then consuming. So I was actually thinking about this in the car ride home today because I feel like I haven't really consumed shit.
That's good.
Right. Like I'm now a week and a half behind on The Last of Us. Me and the wife got to catch up and watch a couple episodes of that.
Oh, you mean that as Matt Walsh would call it, that super gay show?
Is that what he called it?
Yeah, it's just gay.
I guess I'm excited about episode 4 only because my Steve the Serb was telling me that there's a point in the episode where they're in a car and they pop in some Hank Williams. And that's always a soft spot for me, that country music. But other than that, I've been consuming some of Joe Hertler and the Rainbow Seekers. It's a local band who's getting kind of popular. It's like a jam band. It's good music. If you like jam bands and you like let's say like Hound Mouth and stuff like that. I'm trying to think about the jam bands that are like.
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
You never heard of Joe Hertler and the Rainbow Seekers?
I've heard the name. I couldn't tell you anything about them.
They make good music. The guy, he wears these like crazy wings that are like rainbows.
I'm more of a fan of Robert Randolph and the Family Band.
Honestly, you know what? I think you might actually got me on that one, Dan. I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Robert Randolph is, do you? Robert Randolph is the best. The best is he? Fucking now I forget what slide guitar player in the world, bar none.
Ooh, you grabbed my attention.
Bar none. Look up Robert Randolph. I don't know if he still has the Family Band anymore, but Robert Randolph on the slide guitar.
Wait. Best slide guitar, like right now or ever?
I don't know about ever, but certainly
huge assumption.
Certainly right now. Certainly right now. There's nobody better than Robert Randolph. He's been around for like 20 years.
I bet you I can find a better one.
Right now. All right.
Right
well,
now.
First you got to listen to Robert Randolph. You don't even know.
I guess so, yeah.
You just lost our entire fucking audience.
all 0 of them. And then and that's pretty much it. Should we incorporate Bell in the consumption? And
is he ready for us? He's over there really focused.
I don't know.
What's he been
consuming? What am I consuming?
You gotta turn his mic up, Corey.
No, I just gotta get closer.
There you go. That's better.
What I have is
you can fix his audio.
some small batch
1792. Yeah, I can hold it to the camera for you.
It would be so much better if it was 1972.
I don't know.
I
wasn't around in 1792.
the Nixon barrel.
And then,
oh yeah, what's that mead taste like?
I haven't even tried it yet.
He's got some mead.
You can pop that up.
Don't worry about it. We get to it.
Drinking some Viking blood.
Viking blood.
Viking blood.
Yeah.
It's a misprint. It's a local brewery. He made it himself.
Yeah, I don't know why that made me laugh so hard. He made it using the blood on his body snatcher.
I just wrung it out
into a funnel. Just wring it out.
And it's here for you to drink.
I might have to try. I'm definitely gonna tap into that while we're doing this.
I'm gonna tap into that in about 3 minutes.
So, and what are you drinking, Dan? Did you already say that,
dude?
We're already off the rails.
I am 3/4 of the way in the bag already because I am drinking a barrel pick of Elijah Craig single barrel from one of my wonderful customers. This is from Sunshine Market, and it is 132.4 proof. I am halfway through an ounce and a half, and I am feeling it.
Sounds like we could use your blood for some mead.
But it's not even, the thing about it is it doesn't feel like it's that heavy in alcohol. It's very smooth, nice smoky flavor, a little bit of cedar in there. I love it. I love it already. I need to be very, very careful.
You excited for the Super Bowl?
Not really, because I can't root for anything Philadelphia because their fans are horrible, as you demonstrated in our text thread earlier on TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
They basically have the worst, the most annoying sports fans in all the world. And then I really can't stand Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's not even because I can't stand him. It's because I can't stand his fiance or wife. I don't even know if they're married now.
Man,
she's
I
pretty
said
awful.
the same thing.
She's
his brother, his wife, his whole little entourage.
They're all grifting off of Patrick Mahomes and he's a great quarterback. I mean, I love watching the guy play. But anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna get hammered and eat a lot of smoked meats.
Oh, that sounds good. We're doing a lot of. I'm going over my brother's for the game, and we're gonna be making a bunch of fried wings and stuff like that. And I could give two shits about either team. I was really pulling for the Lions this year.
I just hope I win a square. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Anybody cares?
Dude, everyone I know that has squares. Like I guess it's my fault for reaching out too late. But they're all like, "Oh, our squares are full."
Yeah, you got to be.
Squares are full.
You can make
your.
I
guess that's my fault for asking on the Friday before the Sunday game.
Here, hold on. Tip of advice: always ask after the playoff game. As soon as you know who's going to the Super Bowl, start looking for squares.
That's probably a good idea.
What can even be before that? Because all you do is
True.
you just make the lines NFC, AFC, and then you just randomize the Super Bowl squares. Because at the end of the day, it's all pretty random anyway. But anyway,
I'm gonna start asking on Monday if anyone has any squares for the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl squares for next year. Anyway, as far as what I'm consuming, Corey, it's actually a pretty big topic in your community, not so much mine.
My community.
Hogwarts Legacy. I am not a gamer by any stretch of the imagination. I enjoy playing certain sports games. I'm a Madden player. I like to play golf games. I play FIFA. You know, sports games are generally where I go, and I just kind of pick them up and put them down as I'm bored or whatnot. It's very, very rare that I want to play a game that is outside of the sports realm. But this is one that I was intrigued by. I downloaded it. I've been playing it. I've got about 6 hours of playtime into this thing.
Is this your first RPG?
No, I loved Mafia 2. Was a great game for the Xbox 360. I never finished it, but I liked both Red Dead Redemptions, so I'm familiar with the genre. This game is maybe the Velma of the video game world.
Yeah, that everyone kind of hates it. Oh, look at that ranking though.
What do we got
I
here?
can have to disagree.
Yeah, this is what. Okay. So based on the ratings, Bell says he disagrees with you because it actually has phenomenal ratings, where Velma has shit ratings.
Well, I didn't put this in the lower third here, but what I meant to say was that it's basically the Velma of the gaming world, except good.
Oh, because the right shitting on it because there's like a couple trans characters and gay characters. And the left hates it because they think JK Rowling is literally trying to go down alleyways with knives and kill trans people.
Yeah, anything JK Rowling is basically a precursor to genocide of gender divergent persons is pretty much how folks on the cultural left feel about anything related to JK Rowling. And so as I'm playing through this game, I ran into the trans character that folks on the right are freaking out about. I don't even know how much they're freaking out, but I've seen Matt Walsh post about it. Not Matt Welch, but Matt Walsh post about it. I've seen a couple of other conservative media outlets post about the fact that, oh my God, there's a trans character in this game. They're grooming your children. And so I'm playing through this game and I run into this character. And I texted you guys about it. It is absurd.
Right.
To freak out about this character.
Bell's scrolling through the comments right now. The 1 stars, are those like genuine? Like they're actually talking about the platform and like
I've noticed it's about like leveling. It's about the game.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. It's about the game.
Honestly,
It's actually
the
about
graphics are like a PS3 game. Really disappointed.
I don't know.
There's not many.
I don't know. I'm enjoying it so far. I don't know what else to
The
say.
game is too short.
Oh, did somebody finish it already?
Oh yeah, dude. And dude, if a game releases within 12 hours, there's someone that's already finished it.
That's insane.
I want to give this game a good rating, but I can't pause cutscenes or dialogue. Only skip it until it's fixed. You get 1 star. Yeah, they're not like hate comments.
Oh, they're actual legitimate reviews.
It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with any sort of political.
I have not read one review that had to do with JK Rowling.
See, that's just it, right? So you know for a fact that this is like one of those situations.
Hey, Bright, nice.
This is one of those situations where you know that the internet and real life are not the same, right? Because everybody was all up in arms about the fact that, you know, whatever, JK Rowling is a transphobe and a Jew hater and a racist and whatever the hell else she supposedly is. But all of the reviews that Bell just pulled up there, none of them have anything to do with any ideological stuff. And so what it leads me to believe is that the gaming community doesn't care about that shit. They just want a good video game.
Yeah, it depends. I was hoping to get a hold of Steve DeSerb, our video game correspondent, to break down this stuff. Yeah, the gaming correspondent, because he was talking about how like in like Facebook groups and all these different groups, like people are just shitting all over this. I guess there was a website that was created that was trying to call out the people who were streaming it on Twitch, and a bunch of like some guy on like people in the comments were talking about how this is literally trying to hurt and marginalize the trans community. And what's interesting is it looks like all of that stuff, like this couple with Velma, it looks like all of that culture war stuff is finally starting to subside.
Well, no, it's finally starting to be exposed for what it actually is, which is just clout gaining fucking nonsense. Because when you like all of the reviews that Bell just pulled up were all about the actual video game. Like people that were shitting on it were talking about gameplay. We're talking about graphics. We're talking about how short the game was. Things that are actually related to the game. So I disagree, but I'm not a gamer, so like I'm enjoying it. But
so if you're only putting in 1 or 2 hours every other day into a game, then it's going to take a long time for you, so it doesn't seem short. But if there's people who
I look at this and I go, I mean the issues that the cultural left has about this game, about it being, transphobic, and the only reason they're saying that is because it's related to a story told by JK Rowling. But you're going to lose because Potter is an unbelievable franchise. I mean, it is our generation. I know you're not as into Harry Potter as me, Corey. I'm an unapologetic Potter nerd, but it is our generation's version of Star Wars. Would you agree with that?
Oh shit! Yeah. So here's the kind of stuff that Wait, I'm sorry. Yeah. So Potter is our generation of what?
It's our generation's Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's an expansive universe. It has a bunch of stuff to it. There's a lot of stuff that just can keep getting compounded on it and stuff
it's
like
a prophetical story, right?
The story is rooted in anti-Semitic tropes. The gameplay feels dated. The graphics feel like they're a couple of generations behind. All the characters are one-dimensional. It doesn't stay true to the established lore. Every character feels like an off-brand version of the characters we know and love. There's no sense of place, no magic, no heart.
Okay. It's a fucking video game, guys. It's a game that you have to play through. It's not a movie.
No, it's a role-playing game. You're creating your own character as you role play.
Well, and I feel that way since I am a Potter nerd, I will tell you that the Fantastic Beasts series, there's been 3 movies made. They're fucking atrocious.
Oh, really?
They're absolutely awful. They're lazy. There's no depth to any of the character buildup in those 3 films. And then the thing that people freaked out about
was Dumbledore.
Spoiler alert, the latest movie, is that Albus Dumbledore is gay. Now, here's the thing. That has been a fan theory for a long time.
Oh, no shit.
For a long time, Dumbledore being gay was a fan theory. It's not surprising. That didn't bother me at all. In fact, even if you're right-wing or culturally right, and you don't think that stuff should be in movies, it is a really underplayed part of the Fantastic Beast films. It's just kind of under the radar. It's not something that's featured in the plot, if that makes sense. So that kind of brings me back to the things that the cultural right thinks is wrong with this game, which is that you had a screenshot of the supposedly trans character put on, Matt Walsh's Twitter, Ben Shapiro's Twitter. They're coming for your kids. They're trying the children, Corey. We have to worry about the children. Am I right?
God damn, will someone think of the children?
You want me to tell you about this character that they're freaking out about?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to tell you, it's going to take me about 30 seconds.
I'm never going to play this game, so I don't give a shit.
This is Serona the bartender, who Potter fans will know the Three Broomsticks. It's the place where the characters get butterbeer in Hogsmeade. She's the bartender. I've seen her once so far in this game. The only thing that would suggest that this character is trans is the fact that she has a deep voice. That's it. There's no mention of her being trans within the game.
Mean she's not reading a book in a library to children?
No, not doing that. Not doing that. She just looks like a woman, like a woman tending bar with a deep voice that sounds like it may be voiced by a man. That's it. I shit you not, Corey. That's it. That's the only thing that would lead you to believe she's trans. Now, later on, you get into there's a quest outside the castle. Hold on, I'm trying to find my note here. Where you run into, I don't have it, but it doesn't matter. You run into a lesbian character. And the only reason you know she's a lesbian is because she mentions she has a wife named Priya. And that's it. That's it. So the outrage, it's this thing where the outrage from the right is like, it's the cultural right is it's kind of starting to grasp at straws a little bit. Like, because there have been gay characters in films forever.
Right.
And
and it's interesting that the whole like cultural war shit that was at like it's like precipice, like during the George Floyd protests and things like that, it's kind of subsided. And like I mentioned this before in the pre-show, that like when George Floyd was murdered by police, everyone took a stance, corporations and everything. But then fast forward 2 years later, and you're seeing like when Roe v. Wade was struck down by the Supreme Court, you didn't see a bunch of corporations come out and try to placate to their audience, to grift, to say, hey, we're for this, make sure you buy our product. And it seems like a lot less people are just succumbing to like the culture war nonsense, which is great for me because we can actually get into some meat and actually some politics again. You and I have even gotten wrapped up on not so much into the culture war, but we've just been spending a lot of time on talking shit about the culture war itself.
Well, and I think it's been helpful. I think we need more of that. Just understanding the nonsense behind it and just understanding, so something I thought about yesterday was when you can't take people seriously. I have this, like, I guess you could call it the line of no return, right? So you have one on the left and you have one on the right, the cultural right and the cultural left. Anyone that believes that Kyle Rittenhouse is a racist murderer, you are below that line. You can't be taken seriously because you haven't even done, hold on. Let me finish, Corey, and I'll let you go. You haven't even done the bare minimum of actually trying to understand what happened during the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. So that's the one on the left, right? If you believe Kyle Rittenhouse is a racist murderer, you can't be taken seriously. And the one on the right actually relates to George Floyd. The one on the right is you can't be taken seriously if you have any sort of defense for what Derek Chauvin did on that day.
Oh, there was fentanyl in his system.
Yep. There's like, that's the line. So like, I won't even begin to have a conversation with you if you are on the underside of each of those lines on the cultural left or the cultural right, because you're not even trying to pay attention to what's actually.
You're not even attempting to have an objective point of view.
What should we call that? Should we call that the Floyd Rittenhouse line?
The Floyd Rittenhouse watermark?
I think we've established it. The Floyd Rittenhouse line. If you're below the Floyd Rittenhouse line, you can't be taken seriously.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm going to write that down. The Floyd Rittenhouse line. That's good. It sounds really scientific.
Yeah, it's a barometric switch to figure out where you're at exactly and whether or not you're actually trying to have good faith conversations.
I'm writing it down.
Perfect segue. This leads right into this one right here.
We're going to get to this before we get to the old man yelling at cloud. I love it.
It's just a smooth segue, right?
I love it.
I love how we always have flawless, smooth segues, but then we acknowledge it and it just completely ruins the segue every goddamn time.
It's part of our brand. The DeSantis handling of culture wars, touting limited government while growing the power of the state. Now I got to rearrange my notes here. I don't know if you want.
Ah, shit.
Go ahead and get
I
started.
guess I'll take the lead.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, so basically, we're
earned it.
talking about how DeSantis, it kind of encompasses the idea we talk about when we say the right doesn't really have anything they stand for. They just let you know by freaking out about every damn thing of what they're against. And DeSantis is slowly just getting consumed with this culture war nonsense to where we're probably going to see a Tim Pool style Twitter feed from him talk about how he wants to quit.
It's interesting you say that, and I'm gonna somebody that has been absolutely destroyed by the cultural left. Jordan Peterson had some comments against DeSantis. Maybe we can get Bell to pull that up. He was on Rogan talking about this, shitting on DeSantis's handling of canceling CRT and other things like this. And again, it's anti-free speech. I don't know if we need the video, but maybe just the comments. But I look at DeSantis and I've always thought the same thing about him, which is basically just that he is Donald Trump without the Donald Trumpiness.
Yeah, the flair.
Does that make sense? And
It
maybe
does.
that's better. I mean, it's probably better. It's probably better than actual Trump. But this, so if we can talk about some of his bans, and these are some of the things that even somebody like Jordan Peterson, who the left hates, has an issue with. The ban, the quote unquote CRT ban. And here's the problem with this. When you try to ban critical race theory in schools, the issue is, and Jordan Peterson says this himself, how can you ban something that you can't even fucking define? Nobody fucking can define critical race theory. People try to give like simple explanations for what critical race theory is, but nobody can actually do it. And the problem with that is that it lends itself to it does lend itself to racist ideology, right? It does lend itself to, oh, well, I guess we just can't have Black history in the school anymore. There is a slippery slope there. And so that's just one. Obviously, the word Latinx, like you can't fucking ban a word, dude. You can't just ban a word. I hate it. The Latino community hates it. The court of public opinion will figure that out. You can't just ban the word. And I think the one I had the biggest issue with is banning preferential hiring. You saw
So
this one?
I didn't see that one, but I just asked GPT what critical race theory is, and it said it is an intellectual movement and framework for examining the ways in which race and racism intersect with other forms of oppression and privilege, such as class, gender, and sexuality. It emerged within legal scholarship in the United States in the late 1970s and early 1980s as a response to what its founders saw as the limitations of traditional civil rights approaches to addressing racial inequality. CRT argues that laws and legal institutions have been historically and continue to be used as tools of oppression, particularly against communities of color, and that these dynamics are deeply intertwined with the broader systems of white supremacy and privilege. CRT scholars aim to uncover the ways in which racism operates within the law and society more broadly, and to advocate for more just and equitable outcomes. In recent years, CRT has become a topic of significant public debate, particularly in the United States, with some critics arguing that it is divisive and promotes a form of reverse discrimination, while supporters argue that it provides a necessary critique of systematic racism and a framework for addressing it.
Now, explain to me what you just read.
Basically, it's just acknowledging that, like, hey, there might be some racism in the country. Let's talk about it, right? Like, isn't that what that sounds like, basically?
We know this. We know this. You don't need critical race theory for that.
But that's the problem. As soon as you give something a label and you take a topic or anything that has like a wide, broad, like a wide, broad topic that has a bunch of intricacies to it, and you try to take all that and scrunch it up into one thing, and we literally did it even worse than a tweet. We put it into 3 letters.
Trying to scrunch it into a tweet. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it easy for people they have to either be for it or against it because it's the culture war that we're in.
Bell pulled up something here. You pulled up a comment. What was this?
Oh. Pulling up the comments from the Jordan Peterson video where he bashes DeSantis.
Oh,
Here it
we'll
is.
pull up the video. You got the actual video?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why the hell not? Just play it. Oh, it's from Breaking
Oh,
Point.
shit, it's Breaking Points.
Joe Rogan and
Spencer
Jordan
Breaking Points.
Peterson on, of course, is seen as Trump's primary rival in terms of winning
We
the
got some.
nomination. As you guys probably know and followed in the news, DeSantis has banned the AP African American History course from being taught in Florida schools. Obviously, incredibly controversial move. And Peterson brought it up and took issue with it. Let's take a listen to the argument that he makes.
Thank you,
Once you
Crystal
get
Ball.
to the point where the government has to step in and regulate, say, what education systems are doing, you're already in deep trouble. And because I don't see how it can really be done. Because I can't define critical race theory. You know, I mean,
Look
more
at
or
that
less, you can get
two-tone
some sense
suit this
of the
doofus is
cloud of
wearing.
ideas that's associated with it. But
You don't know about this?
trying to
I'll
draw the
show you.
lines, how are you going to do that? And then, of course, you enable, inevitably, no matter what your goal is to begin with, you're going to control a certain form, let's say, of pathological communication, misinformation. That's just going to play into the hands of people who like to censor, and that's just as likely on the right as it is on the left.
Mm.
So, no, it's a real dangerous game.
Is it a problem like the term critical race theory it's open to interpretation?
Yeah, well, it's often even hard, except in retrospect, to understand a lot of what these things actually are, you know, because new clouds of ideas emerge and they kind of have an animating spirit, and they have a set of associated, what would you say, presumptions, and you can often only see what that is in retrospect.
So, yeah, I mean, that is Jordan Peterson, the right-wing, horrible human being who is wearing the heaven and hell suit, by the way, Corey, in case you weren't aware.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
He articulated in a much more person who has a higher degree of knowledge than me when it's that PhD at the end of his name. But he basically was saying what I was saying is it's kind of this convoluted thing where it can't be properly articulated because
later
there's a lot
on-
of people putting input into it.
Later on, he brings up Kant about the idea of if you're going to fight monsters, make sure you're not going to turn into a monster yourself. Almost sounded like Jordan Peter. If you're going to fight monsters, make sure
It's
you
not
don't
immediately
become a
clear to
monster
me.
yourself. It's not immediately clear to me that Ron DeSantis won't turn into a monster himself. So no, but that's a great place to go with this because one of the things that I mean, if you're on the cultural left, you're going to shit on Jordan Peterson no matter what.
Yeah, like what did I say in our message feed the other day when you said something and I was trying to shit on you, and I was trying so hard to shit on you that I ended up shitting all over myself.
What do you mean the title of the episode? Newton's third law applies to all equal and opposite reaction. So yeah, so when you're trying to fight monsters, be sure you don't turn into a monster yourself. Like that is what I'm kind of seeing from Ron DeSantis' policies. Yeah. Like you go from this like, okay, CRT is really hard to explain and we probably shouldn't be teaching it in K through 12. And I agree with that because fucking law school students can't really understand it. So why do you think K through 12 students?
But wasn't it a selective class?
I don't know, but what ends up happening if you try and ban it, which is what I'm getting at, is that now it kind of takes on this racist and then even like homophobic ties to it. If you go too far the wrong direction, now it turns from okay, no CRT to well, how much Black history do we want to teach?
Right. Yeah, stuff like that. Like in the learning environment, it's not a good learning environment when you have a teacher just trying to openly express something that he or she feels like they have to walk on eggshells.
And then I think the only other thing I had about DeSantis was, the book banning thing, dude.
Yeah, what's up, Nazi? You want to talk about fascism?
Here's the thing: is like if you want to ban certain books in public school libraries, okay, it's silly. I don't agree with it, but go ahead. But what happens when now that expands to all of your public libraries?
Yeah, way to set a precedent to where if you lose and a Democrat gets in, now they can just ban books under your laws.
Now Ayn Rand is not going to be sold anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you like Jordan Peterson said about when you're fighting monsters, don't become one yourself.
That was a Kantian quote.
But it is. Didn't now like Oklahoma's doing this shit too. Oklahoma banned the word Latinx. It's like, what's worse, this shitty word that the Hispanic community has completely disavowed, Latinx, or the fucking government banning the word?
Look at these books that they banned in this county, Duval County, Florida.
Is this the school district or is this all libraries?
The entire the entire county.
Wow.
Every school in the county. There's lullabies in here. Berenstain Bears.
And the big question. Berenstain Bears and the big question. What's the big question?
Yeah, go ahead and Google it. Find out what the big question is. What is the big question in Berenstain Bears?
Berenstain Bears and the big question. No, look, it's fucked up. I mean, you can't sit there and go, I'm pushing for more limited federal government and then exercising the power of the state under the guise of quote unquote protecting our children.
Yeah, it's fucked up. His earlier in the year, one of my hot takes was that DeSantis, if he ran for president, he would win, and he's very, very quickly shooting himself in the foot. And then instead of accidentally getting a misfire in the foot and going and getting help from the hospital, he's reloading the gun and shooting it again to make sure he really did it in the first time.
Here we go. Bell's got the Berenstain Bears up. And the big question. Oh, is it about like whether or not God exists? That's what I'm getting from the cover.
That's weird that they would ban that.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
It's someone, Jonathan Friedman says it's just one of a whopping. Wait, go back up to that real quick. It's just one of a whopping 176 titles that were ordered out of the classroom in a Florida district. The books were part of a large collection and to add diverse and inclusive literature to classrooms. They were ordered off shelves in January for extra review.
Oh my God.
Because that's the thing. That's where we should be. Like, instead of trying to shut, like, you know me, I'm a big time free speech absolutist, only because of the very sake that I think that it's an insult to my intellect when someone else tells me that I can't read something because I'm not smart enough to decipher it and be able to actually like indulge in it and then not become some sort of crazy extremist. The book was there for perspective. You need as many perspectives as possible about anything to create your own opinion on things. And when you're shutting a bunch of these perspectives out, you're just basically building a fast track to make a group thought or a group think, to where people are going to only think one way. Like, oh, that's fun. Let's have a bunch of people in Florida thinking the exact same way because they can only read 6 books.
I'm glad we have a third person here. Can you guys handle this for a minute while I go take a piss?
Already?
Yeah, dude, it's bad.
You got the bladder of a.
It's because I'm drinking this fucking
high alcohol whiskey.
It's because I'm drinking this 132 proof fucking rocket fuel. I'll be right back. You guys can handle it. I trust you.
You fucked up.
All right. Well, I found the reason, anyways, why they banned the book. In the Berenstain Bears and the Big Question, Mama and Papa explain the concept of God to Stan and Jan. The book takes a largely Christian perspective on the issue and resolves a narrative with the existence of God.
So here's why I have such a big issue with blocking anything like that is the fact that this book on its own might have one perspective that goes in one way, even if it's narrow and it says, oh, well, God was the one who created things. You know what I mean? But the book is going to be on the shelf next to other books who have a completely different view of the world. And that's the point of reading and gaining knowledge. And why, like, the principle of school is supposed to be not, it's supposed to teach you how to think, not what you think. Because kids aren't supposed to just read this book one and done, and then their knowledge is done. You're supposed to, like, and to become like someone who's knowledgeable in fields and to be smart into things like that. You read about a vast array of things. It could be reading this book and then reading one that regards atheism, and then reading this book or one that regards Islam or Judaism or all these different things. And now this whole piece is removed from that. So what you're doing is you're only hurting the kids by removing something that could be a part of knowledge for them as they grow up and form and cultivate their own perspectives and ideologies as they grow up and become someone as a functioning adult.
I'm back. That wasn't going to wait.
So you kind of hit the nail on the head there anyways, because it's kind of like people forgot what books existed for in the first place.
Yeah, to expand knowledge.
No, they're there to
To force a narrative.
They're there to groom your children.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
I hate the term groomer, dude.
And earlier I called DeSantis a Nazi in jest, but I want to clarify that I don't actually think he's a Nazi. That word is thrown around way too much.
Fascism, that's thrown around.
Yeah, but fascism. Yeah, no, that is banning books that kids can't read is 100% fascism. Hitler did do that. That's why I use the term Nazi. I don't think DeSantis is actually a Nazi, but banning free literature is what fascist countries do.
You can't,
whether it's the left or the right in our country, anyone that wants to ban any sort of free speech or any sort of literature.
You can't call yourself an advocate for limited government and then exercise the power of the state. And that's exactly what Ron DeSantis is doing with some of this.
And that's what's so like, and it goes like we were talking about Tim Pool earlier. This is the problem that America has. Everyone's doing everything for clicks and likes and to get that 30-second video out there. He's doing this to grift, but he's not helping the country. You know what I mean? Like he's
politically though, I think Ron DeSantis is fucking brilliant. I mean, you have
is he though?
Yes.
He might have gone too far out.
Nope. Here's the thing. Here's what he's doing. He's doing what his base wants, which is fighting wokeism, which for me, of course, for me and you and Bell and most of our listeners, I would assume, is not enough. Like combating wokeism is not enough for me to support you in a presidential run. But here's why he's politically brilliant, because most of this country is fucking morons. He is completely letting the attacks from Trump, because Trump knows that DeSantis is his biggest rival in the Republican Party at this point, and he is letting it all roll off his back like water off a duck. He's not responding to any of it. He's just continuing business as usual, and Trump can go out there and call him Ron DeSanctimonious or whatever his stupid nickname is for him. Politically, Ron DeSantis has been quite brilliant with regards to his a potential 2024 presidential run. Do I agree with him? Absolutely not. Would I vote for him? 100% no. But from a political perspective, he's been quite brilliant.
Do you think this took votes away from him?
No. Well,
in the state of Florida, maybe not on the national level, as evidenced by people like Jordan Peterson. Like Jordan Peterson, someone who has a cult following.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was.
He also has values. He also has values. That's why I've never shit on Jordan Peterson. I have my disagreements with him,
and we make fun of him.
Yes,
but yeah, like he's
a net positive. Kind of lost it a little bit.
I think so,
but he's a net positive. I don't know. Anyway, we got to move on. We're an hour in, buddy.
Oh fuck!
Talk about an old man. You want to talk about an old man screaming at a cloud?
Sure. So we watched the State of the Union. So should we just so I had this idea right before the show started.
Are we gonna have time?
That we read. I'm sorry, I got distracted. My buddy just texted me and he goes, "Hey, my buddy that owns a store has 6 bottles of Eagle Rare, $60 a bottle." It's like, all right, well, guys, have a good one. Show's over. I'm gonna.
It's not too bad, but it's still a little overpriced.
But I was thinking we could read our script basically here of the State of the Union. Do you have your phone on you? Because we were all texting.
I can just read it.
Well, I figured we could all read our parts. I thought that'd be kind of funny.
It's gonna take Bell forever to get back to his spot where he started. The whole point of this is the State of the Union was so unbearable to watch that I think the text thread between myself, Corey, and Bell was better than the actual State of the Union as we were watching the State of the Union, because this was just an old man yelling at a cloud. While you guys get to where you need to be, I'm gonna just give my quick opinion on this speech. It's real short. Joe Biden got in front of the country and he lied, and then Republicans in the coming days after lied about what he lied about. My biggest example here is the whole part of the speech with regards to Social Security. When are we ever going to get over this fucking argument about whether Republicans actually want to cut Social Security? Republicans cutting Social Security is the Republican equivalent of the left wing's Medicare for all. Okay, there is a small faction of Republicans that believe we should cut Social Security, just as there is a small faction of Democrats that believes we should have Medicare for all. But the system does not want to allow for either of those things, which could be beneficial. Okay, so the right or Republicans, I look to somebody like Rand Paul, who was interviewed by Brad Palumbo on Based Politics. If you haven't seen this, it's actually a pretty fantastic, just 15-minute interview where Rand Paul is the only adult in the room that's actually quoted from Based Politics. I'm not even going to take that from them. Where all he says is that we have to have a discussion about Social Security, because the current system that it's under is going to become insolvent sometime in the next 10 to 13 years. And how do we know this? All you have to do is know basic math, which is that we have a baby boomer generation that is slightly larger or at least on par with the millennial generation. And you have Social Security, which is a program that transfers money from young to old, essentially. When you
there's
have
less young and more old, you're in trouble.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
not
and
only that,
you're not
most
implying
people-
that we need to just get rid of Social Security.
Not at all.
I just want to be
Not at all.
clear.
Not at all.
But we definitely need to have a good faith conversation about this situation, because we're setting
out.
ourselves up for failure.
It
They
does.
I
pay
don't
out
think
more
that
than they
I don't
take
think
in.
any of us are going to see Social Security.
It does require reform, right? So when you have a situation where the math is really easy, most people take more out of Social Security than they ever paid in. The math shouldn't be that hard. If that goes on for too long, the program becomes insolvent. And when the program becomes insolvent, then we're all fucked. Then everybody gets cut. So
do you
why
think
doesn't it make sense? Why doesn't it make sense to have these reforms take place right now to keep the program alive
for you and me?
and keeping it solvent? Yeah, 100%. But
So-
when you say that, what happens, Corey? What happens when you say that? Oh, you
wanna
don't care
add-
about old people.
Yeah,
You hate old
yeah. Yeah, it goes back to what we were saying earlier of how just polarized the country is because of the fact that, like, you even mention it. It's one of those things that's like untouchable. You're not even allowed to talk about it. One thing I could think could solve the problem in the short term is maybe raising the cap. Because right now I think it's $300,000. If you make you only pay on your first $300,000 you make in a year of Social Security, and anything you make after that you don't pay.
Mhm.
I know there's pitfalls to that, because then you're saying that someone who makes more is paying a shit ton more into it, and that person who's making a shit ton more money isn't going to even need to rely on it. So there's pros and cons to it. My personal thing, I really think it's pulling the rug out on people, and that's my empathy really creates a cognitive dissonance in my idea of how I think I could solve this issue
When you
personally.
can, and that's the thing.
But
is
I
that
think what we should be able to
people that are
do
smarter
is,
than us are going to have to figure this out. But we know there's a problem.
I honestly think that there should be a government instituted, maybe a bond program, or a stock market program, to where you put your money into a trust fund. Because overall, history shows,
Or IRA.
yeah, like an IRA, history shows that 401ks, IRAs just do better. And if you put that same amount of money into an IRA over 40 years versus Social Security, you are going to be sitting at a very, very nice spot when you retire.
So should I give you the libertarian argument on this? You should know this better than me.
It shouldn't be forced.
I know it.
Would you? Okay, it's not really an argument. It's more of a question. If the federal government came to you and said, "We can keep doing Social Security the way it is. You pay in, you retire, you collect after you're 65, or we'll give you every dime you ever paid into this, and you never have to pay into it again, but Social Security is gone." Which one are you taking? I'm taking the latter. Give me my money back.
Yep.
Give
And
me
then
my
be able to take the chance. See,
we'll
so
just
we're talking about a whole
It's
societal
never
shift.
happened. It never happened.
So we're talking about a whole societal shift. If you're going to do something like that, then you need to institute classes where people know how to properly do financing and stuff like that. I want to share Grendel's scars. He goes, force a 15% retirement investment strategy. If you pay in, you get a retirement. If you don't, sorry. So he's kind of on the same page you are here.
Yep.
Oh, and welcome to the show, Grendel. Make sure to follow and share. We're here typically every Wednesday. But you might have been on the show before. I kind of recognize the name. Actually,
I forgot. Corey.
But yeah, he says force a 15% investment strategy. If you pay in, you get a retirement. If you don't, sorry. That's a very libertarian stance right there.
Well, yeah. He put it as forced, but not really. You're not forced to do it.
Well, I think he's you force that idea.
I mean, isn't that basically the concept of a 401k?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
But it's in lieu of all of that money taken out for Social Security, it gets put into a private investment.
Well, would you be able to take a loan out from it? Would you be penalized? All that,
Ooh, so that's a good question, because with 401k you can.
Not if there's a fair tax.
Oh.
Well, then this would be an optional thing on top of the fair tax.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But you're only going to be taxed on that money once. So, as it should be. But anyway, we don't have to read our text from the State of the Union. The Social Security was one big part of the State of the Union where, to me, Biden just lied. He did that. He did the thing that a Democratic establishment president always does.
He pulled a political move.
Republicans are trying to take your Social Security, and they really aren't. They never really have been. There's always a faction of Republicans that want to do that.
Right, but I think what he did was politically still a decent power play. When we're talking about eyes on the screen, the only people that pay attention to a lot of politicians, tweets and stuff like that, are people who are interested in politics. People who aren't necessarily interested in politics still watch the State of the Union. I didn't look. Will you look up the viewership real quick of how many people actually watch the State of the Union? Because there was a lot of eyes on that TV for that, and he got the Republicans, which is interesting. This is also interesting because, and I'll explain this afterwards, but he got the Republican Party to stand up and applaud the idea that they are not going to touch Medicare. So he squared that away.
But
But I was going to say what he did.
Go ahead.
27 million people watched Biden's second SOTU address. Been big viewership decline from last year.
Wow.
That's almost 10% of the country.
Dude, that's all what that is. That's all of LA County. That's what that is.
But what he did
That's a lot of fucking
was
people.
in making them do that,
Let's compare that to the Super Bowl next week.
right. But what he did in doing that is he pulled away a political talking point in the 2024 election. He pulled the rug out from a Democratic talking point. Because now the Republicans go, didn't you see us all applauding? Obviously, we're not for this.
But Corey, nobody's going to run on that. Republicans don't run on pulling Social
No, but I'm saying Democrats will. But now Republicans have that fodder to go, well, you saw us all stand. We're obviously not against it.
Right, but everybody knows that.
Everyone doesn't know that.
I'm not. I mean, well, it's maybe
27 million people know that.
Maybe
Now.
Maybe I'm naive.
Now.
Maybe I'm naive, or maybe I'm giving too much. Maybe I'm giving too much credit to the American public. But
Never give them enough credit. Always give them credit.
Well, yeah, that's true, and we talk about that a lot on the show. Like, people aren't as stupid as they seem, or as like the internet would have you believe they are.
Yeah, it falls into the whole noisy, not numerous trope, to where it's like, just because the majority of America isn't noisy about politics and freaking out about every single thing, doesn't mean that they can actually use their fucking little beam between their eyeballs and their ears. That
I guess I'm just not willing to give Biden
create coherent thought.
I'm not willing to give Biden credit for, getting.
It was a good political power move. We were given DeSantis political power. Fucking acknowledgement.
You already lost your thought.
Words, you know me and words. Fucking language. You made this shit up.
I'm just not willing to give Biden credit for that, because when you have Marjorie Taylor Green, who basically was dressed up like the
Cruella
Deville, or the White Witch of Narnia, like running through fucking the Capitol building with
fucking balloons. That dumb broad.
Because she's a fucking moron. But what she did was they showed her standing up and yelling liar when he was talking about the Social Security stuff. And I'm almost never willing to give Marjorie Taylor Green credit for anything, but she was right, because he was lying. He was lying about what Republicans feel about Social Security.
Right, but
none of them are trying to cut it.
No, some of them are. It's maybe one out of like 218, but there are ones who say we need to cut it.
They always get the clout.
But it's the squad's version of Medicare for all. Where it's
perfect example.
It's there.
The squad. There's 4 of them. There's 4 of them saying we need Medicare for all, and the Republicans paint all the Democrats as saying that, and this was the Democrats doing the same thing. I'll give you that. Yeah, 100%.
And they're wrong when they do that. It's just stupid. It's just, why can't it just ever be don't lie? Like, why do you have to lie to make your political points? And like, Biden's not alone. I mean, Trump did it, Obama did it, George Bush did it. Go back as far as you want to go.
Yeah, Biden was doing this thing that he pulled a percent out of Obama's playbook, saying the economy is great. Everyone's doing great.
Oh God, yeah.
And and that's one thing that frustrates me when they talk about the unemployment rate. No one talks about the job participation rate.
Not to mention the amount of old people that retired during COVID.
Thank God.
So it's like one of those things where
we do need jobs for younger people, but
like, the raw number is correct, right? So you look at I can't remember what it was yesterday, 3.7.
Well, that's why numbers are deceiving sometimes.
Super low, but it's like, yeah, that number looks fantastic, but what is the explanation behind that number? And
because a huge swath of the country just isn't in the job market looking for jobs.
And that's what these politicians do. They just throw out the raw number.
Everyone does it, the left and the right. Like, for example, we talk about how when it comes to police killings, they say, well, you look at the numbers, more white people are killed by cops than black people. And it's like, true. That's a true number. But
Black people are also 13% of the population.
Black people are also 13% of the population. And when you do the ratio, then like if you added that ratio to the white people, then it would be this exorbitant number. It'd be absolutely insane. You know, it's like, oh, the black community is violent. You know, 80% of black people are killed by black people. And it's like, oh, well, 90% of white people are killed by white people. And so like numbers are deceiving when you take them out of context on things like that.
Let's switch gears here, but it still applies to Joe Biden. Biden being
My question is, where was Clarence Thomas?
Oh, at the State of the Union?
He wasn't there.
I seen that.
It's a good question.
All the other ones were, but Clarence Thomas wasn't. I didn't look into it, but that was just one question I had.
His wife wouldn't let him go because she was afraid that he might, catch whatever woke virus is flying through that.
And then what was up with Dr. Jill wife Biden kissing Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris's husband, on the lips?
You actually care about that? They're old.
It was just like, what the fuck? Yeah, but it wasn't even like that weird thing that like it's so kissing on the cheek isn't really something that the American culture does, but there's a bunch of European cultures and South American cultures that when they see each other, they do that on the side of the lip to show affection that like, hey, I care about you. It was a straight smack on the lips.
I didn't see it. Were they like making out? I didn't see it.
No, but it was a straight lip to lip contact where me and my wife were like, what was that? My wife made a joke and said, well, they're all fucking having orgies anyways. So
next time we get together, I'll kiss your wife on the lips. You kiss my fiance on the lips, and we'll just see how it feels.
Did I just get invited to a swingers party?
You gotta bring your keys, dude. It's a key part.
Just throw your keys on the bowl. We're just gonna do a little peck on the lips.
We're just gonna do some wife talking. Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh.
We got the weird chair in the corner for Belle to sit in to watch.
No, I was about to say thank you for not inviting me.
One thing that pissed me off was again the BS partisanship and polarization we see in our Congress, that like Biden said he wants things built in America. He wants everything built in America. He was talking about a segment of how anything that the federal government does when it comes to infrastructure or anything like that, it has to be made in America. It doesn't have to be made anywhere else. But he said built in America, and the Democrats all stood up and they all cheered and they clapped, and they're giving their woo, cheers. And the Democrats were all sitting.
Republicans
were all sitting. 3 fucking years ago, in Trump's last State of the Union address, when he said that damn near the same exact fucking thing, all the Republicans stood up and cheered, and the Democrats all sat there on their asses with these sour puss faces on, like, I can't believe he said that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the reasons we do this show, is to make people understand that establishment Democrats and establishment Republicans
are two wings of the same goddamn bird.
Fucking people. They do the same shit during all of this. Because let's say Biden, hopefully he doesn't run, but loses in 2024. And whether it's Trump or DeSantis or whoever the fuck the Republican president is, I'm going to imagine it's going to be one of those two guys, comes up and says the same thing that Biden said at his State of the Union a few nights ago. Like you just said, Biden said the same thing Trump said. Whoever the next Republican president says the same thing Biden said, and the opposition sits and stands. Just all you have to do is pay close attention.
Stupid.
Just pay. Oh, you don't even have to pay close attention. Just pay.
I was actually surprised at how many times the Republicans actually stood up.
I mean, but were they rhinos, Corey?
Yeah, they were all just a bunch of goddamn rhinos.
It's just a bunch of rhinos.
And another thing I want to mention is how much McCarthy actually is following into this role of leader for the Republican Party. Because there was a point where a bunch of Republicans were out there. I keep calling them interchangeably the same name because they are the same. But the Republicans the Republicans stood up, or Biden said something, and Republicans were starting to scoff and hiss, and give their boos and stuff like that. And you saw McCarthy in the background just mouth like, shh. He didn't actually say it, but you saw him just go, shh. And they all did. I thought that was interesting. And then what else do I have?
He's got
Oh
the
yeah,
right
no,
name.
McCarthy's a shill. You're not wrong. Grendel Skull said McCarthy's a shill. But they're all shills. They're all pieces of shit in our book.
Is he more of a shill than Pelosi? I think Grendel would
Yes.
probably say no.
No, it's oh, you think you would probably say no? Yeah, it's fucking close. What two things that I have that I think that or there's three things. The junk fee act that Biden wants to enact, just hidden fees and things like that, whether it's like ticket buy prices, having to pay extra to sit next to your kid on a plane, and different things like that. Like some of that makes a little bit of sense. Like I could see that bill going in the wrong direction real fast and then just becoming a speed bump for free markets. But
You didn't want to talk about Kyrsten Sinema's Big Bird outfit?
oh yeah, I'm sorry. We should have mentioned Kyrsten Sinema's Big Bird outfit and like
Sitting next
Dude.
to Mitt Romney.
I was looking at hers and Marjorie Taylor Green's outfits and thinking how their outfits alone probably cost a month's salary of the average American worker, and they're out here making these videos saying, "I'm just like you."
And then, well, the thing that's worse about Sinema is at least Marjorie Taylor Green. You know exactly what she is. She's just a somebody grifting off of ridiculous right wing ideology. And then, but Kyrsten Sinema is like this. She's like kind of pretending to be centrist, pretending to be independent, but what she really is essentially going with whatever side benefits her. She's not actually an independent. She doesn't actually care about class warfare. She doesn't actually care about, a Democratic base or a Republican base, and which leads me to believe she will probably lose her next election. But she's trying to do the John McCain thing, right? She's trying to be like this liberal Arizonan conservative, or actually, I guess I should say she's trying to be a conservative liberal since she was technically with the Democratic Party until recently. But she was trying to be.
Oh yeah, that's right. She went independent.
Yeah, she's trying to be like this Democratic version of what John McCain was.
Let's talk about that real quick. Just a real little footnote of how many people in the last couple of years have left their parties and went independent on both sides.
Who's that besides Kyrsten Sinema?
Tulsi Gabbard, Justin Amash. Those are actually the only ones I could think of. But
Those are
all three of them. All three of them, Dan.
Those are also the two you mentioned are also not in Congress anymore.
No, they're not. God, I would love to see someone like Justin Amash though become House Speaker. He was hoping for it.
Man, that's the thing about libertarians, man. Just you're a bunch of goddamn dreamers.
Oh, they all just try to they all try to out libertarian each other. That's the thing, is like, to me, like pure libertarianism looks
Cut
good
my
on
life
paper.
into pieces. This is my last resort.
That's libertarians.
Libertarianism, like in the purest form, looks great on paper, but it's equivalent to communism, because communism looks great on paper, but humans aren't going to, like, it's the same thing. You're trying to box everyone into this idea that they all think just like you. That's all I got to say about that. And he looked at me like I were expecting more. I was like, nope,
No,
that's it.
I want to talk about
the corporate buyback stock tax that he wants to put in. I like the idea of it. I guess where I'm at with that is and I guess this is why I'm okay with it, because it is more government fingers and private companies like bank account and stuff like that. But where I'm able to justify it is the fact that all of these big corporations get so much money in corporate subsidies that it's gross, and they turn around and take this money, and instead of paying their employees more, like, better money to where they don't have to rely on the government for like welfare and stuff like that, they do stock buybacks.
Isn't that where Like, you don't even have to worry about stock buybacks. Well, maybe you do, because it doesn't really apply. But I was just going to go back to the fair tax thing. Maybe you should have a fair tax along with, I don't know, regulating stock buybacks. But you're right about stock buybacks. It's
gross. It's fucking gross because these companies, they do, like Walmart Walmart paid $4.3 billion in taxes last year. It's like, oh yeah, that's great, but guess what? They got $4.6 billion back in fucking corporate subsidies. And you know what they're doing with that money? They're buying their stocks back instead of paying their employees more, because they know that their employees are paid so little because daddy government's going to come in and fill in the gaps with welfare, food stamps, Section 8 housing, and things like that. They don't have to pay employees good money because these employees can rely on the government, to where you could just get rid of that type of shit. And then they have to all of a sudden go, oh shit, we have to pay people money to actually work here, to where they can actually have a fucking decent standard of living without having to rely on the government.
And then you add the fair tax to that, to where you don't get taxed on your income and you tax on what you consume.
God, I want the fair tax so bad.
Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. And it's so interesting because folks on the cultural left will go, oh, it's not fair to it's not fair to poor people to make them pay more for goods. But they leave out the fact that their income isn't taxed anymore. They get to take home every dime they make.
Right.
And
yeah, tax me what I spend, not what I make. I'm tired of looking at my check and seeing hundreds of dollars taken off the top.
But in theory, or at least hopefully, like with most state income taxes, you don't tax essentials. You don't tax food.
Yeah, there would obviously be different things that's like that. And I picture in a perfect world a fair tax, there being different tax rates on different things.
No, but people got to pay 23% more, Corey. Like, that's what the Washington Post would say.
That's roughly what I pay now off the top before I even spend any money.
Exactly. Completely leaving out the fact that the IRS is now disbanded and you don't have to pay taxes on the money you fucking earned.
Well, that reminds me. That's one of my lightning roundups.
You know what the best part about it is, though? People don't become criminals and don't become felons and don't go to prison for not paying taxes.
Right. Because they're now allowed to just take home whatever income they make.
And they're paying it at the store.
Like, if I go out and I decide I want to sell pineapples by the side of the road, I don't have to then go in and be like, all right, government, give me a 1099 so I can tell you how much I made and how much I was supposed to be taxed on it. No, I just take the money that I made on the pineapples that I sold on the side of the road.
Yeah, imagine how much more innovation there would be.
What I buy.
If there was no overhead of payroll taxes and all of these other things just to start a business.
Right. And if you're $150 off, $200 to $100, and the IRS agent that they have to pay catches that, you become a criminal.
Yeah. But don't worry. They hired 87,000 armed agents.
I wanted to talk real quick before we get to your lightning round, Corey.
Well, I think we're still talking about the State of the Union, right?
I changed it. I want to talk about Biden being fucking primaried.
Oh, okay. All right, fine.
Damn it,
whatever.
On
Joke's on you. I'm bringing it back up in the lightning round. No, I'm just kidding.
About the State of the Union. It's just an old man yelling at a cloud.
Dude, I love how when he's trying to be passionate, it just sounds like he's yelling at kids to get off his lawn.
So, look.
Attaboy.
We got a dude in the comments calling for another revolution.
You get taxed on your income. Well, that's the point. Like, you're not taxed on your income anymore with the fair tax.
Do you think that's all it would take, though? Grendel, let's just go and dress up like Native Americans and throw some tea in the river?
Native Americans? It wasn't Native Americans.
They dressed up like Native Americans.
That's right. I thought you were saying Native Americans were the ones that did the Boston Tea Party.
No.
We wanted
white people
to
culturally appropriated.
That's amazing. Corey and I do have founding fathers costumes. We'd be happy to get in on this.
100%.
I wanted to talk about the possibility of Biden being primaried because I think I sent you guys. I actually have it right here. I sent you guys a text, a headline from the Washington Post. This is on Facebook. A post ABC poll Most Americans say Biden has not accomplished much since taking office. This is the Washington Post. Okay. This is a very establishment left publication.
Which rumor has it might be up for sale.
Jeff
Wanna
Bezos
go-
is going to sell it?
Yeah, you remember there was a rumor going around that he might sell the Washington Post and buy the Washington Commanders.
Ooh, that would be interesting. That would be culturally interesting.
I'd much rather prefer that.
So
Do the normal rich prick thing.
there it
Don't.
is. Americans not feeling impact of Biden agenda. Where was this one from,
What?
Bill?
Oh, it's a paywall.
This is Washington Post.
That's fine. That's fine. We don't need to read it. But yeah, so that's Washington Post. And the reason I'm getting into the possibility of Biden being primaried is because we're seeing not just that Washington Post piece, but I've seen multiple others of like this kind of planting the seed to Democratic voters of maybe we should consider somebody else.
this guy's a heartbeat away from
Yeah,
dying. You're gonna have Kamala Harris.
maybe we should consider somebody else. And that's the thing. That's what makes Biden a goddamn savior, because the last thing you want is Kamala Harris.
Dude, remember we said the same thing about Trump. Like, oh yeah, Trump's bad, but if he goes, then you have Pence.
Dude, okay, so how do I feel on February 10th, 2023? My choices are Joe Biden,
Aubrey.
Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, or Mike Pence. Who am I taking? I might be taking Mike Pence. Out of those four choices, it would honestly be between those four horrible choices. It would be a toss-up between Biden and Pence, because at least Biden is just kind of maintaining the status quo, and let's get us to where the next place is.
Yeah, Pence has some real war hawkish tropes to him. Where Biden so far, like, Ukraine. It's interesting, the margin keeps getting pushed. Now we're giving them tanks, and now there's talks of F-16s, where we know it's not a matter of when, but a matter of if. But as much of the debacle was, Biden did end the war in Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's the one thing I
feel like
credit for, and it's the one thing he's been shit on for the hardest by the establishment Democrats.
Isn't that interesting?
No, it's not interesting. Well, I mean, it is, but it's
it's not surprising.
No, it's easy.
Interesting, not surprising.
It's easy to explain. And so, yeah, I don't know. The possibility of Biden being primaried, I'm rooting for it. But like, who's going to primary him, Corey? What are we looking at? Are we looking at Amy Klobuchar? Are we looking at Pete Buttigieg?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm so frustrated that he moved to our state, because he's going to try to get his hands on our politics.
Wait, what?
Pete Buttigieg moved to Traverse City.
Moved to the cherry capital of the world.
No.
Yeah, he did. He's positioned to move here. Michigan's getting positioned to be like the state, essentially. Like, we got moved up to like the third or fourth state for primaries. Our economy's booming.
I love it. Maybe it'll make our.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love that. But like, fuck Pete Buttigieg.
Who is?
Grando just said, "I'm sorry."
Pete Buttigieg is moving here. Yeah.
We already have Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah, it's
even her, I'm on the fence with. She, her lack of oversight got a lot of old people killed, but I'm getting free college because of her. And she is bringing a bunch of jobs here, and yeah, it's weird. Like, that's Gretchen Whitmer is a topic of its own.
And so, I mean, and so is the entire possibility of Biden being primaried situation, because who do you go with? Because you're not going to go with a Bernie Sanders type. You're not going with anybody from the squad. And even if you did, they've already cucked out to the Democratic establishment anyway, which is
so that's
an issue with the actual
2024.
The actual leftists that matter, that are actually saying the right things, that are going on Tucker Carlson, Jimmy Dore. It's not something that's going to be an easy decision. This idea that we're going to have either Trump or DeSantis, at this point, I'd be leading towards Trump, and Biden in 2024, I'm just going to do what I did in the primaries in 2022, Corey. I'm just going to sit and watch. I'm just gonna watch.
The most unlogistical person in the U.S. gets the top logistics job, and then as soon as he gets it, he goes on a 3-month paid leave.
Yeah. Meanwhile, fathers that work real jobs can't get 2 weeks.
Yeah, I
off
had to go
do
back to work.
baby.
Yeah, I spent 5 days in the hospital with my wife when my son was born, and then had a 3-day weekend because I was right at Labor Day. And guess who was back at work after that? Me.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you have a newborn son at home. That's now
With a wife who actually gave birth to it. And I'm not doing that as some weird trope against, gay people or lesbians, but they fucking adopted and they're making a ton of money. He didn't have his husband at home with a gaping hole because they just pushed something that was 9 pounds.
Meanwhile, also
hole.
when he took that leave, we were going through one of the greatest crises when it comes to logistics in the history of this country.
Yeah. Yep. And all the trade routes are fucked up. And he's like, all right, well, I'm having a kid, so see you guys later.
If you didn't know already, Corey and I'm assuming Bell's on board with this, fuck Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, he's Operation
Yes.
Operation Mockingjay type shit, man. He's a PSYOP. CIA.
Operation Mockingjay? Was it Jay?
Was it Mockingjay or no Mockingbird?
Mockingjay is the
Movie. Yeah, I always get the
Hunger Games.
Yeah, he's
Hunger
Mockingbird.
Games, the Jennifer Lawrence.
But he's a PSYOP. Yo,
Grendel says, I bet he got his baby formula. I'm sure he did.
he probably did.
You have anything else you want to talk about, Corey? I think that was all the main topics. Or do we want to get to our new segment for the end of the show? Lightning round, what Corey didn't get to. Now
Yeah,
he's
we could do that.
writing.
I'm looking at what I have written down. Okay, so recently, this is one I got real quick. So recently, one of the CDC spokespersons, I'm not sure how high up they were in the CDC, but they were being questioned by Congress about masks. And they were asked if there was any studies to show that masks would actually prevent COVID. And the CDC responded with, no, we didn't do any studies or research because we assumed they would work because they work for other things. So they just didn't do any studyings and they just threw shit at the wall to see what would stick. Now, my problem isn't in the message, it's in the messaging with that. It's the fact that the mask could have worked. It might not have worked. I'm a huge proponent of trying to save lives. I'm a huge opponent of mandates of any sort. But if they would have came out and just said, like, hey, masks work for the flu, masks work for the common cold, masks work for all these other different respiratory viruses, we would like you guys to wear them because of the fact that it worked for this stuff, it should work for this. But instead, they came out with this definitive answer like, oh, yeah, masks work. And if you're not wearing one, then you're killing grandma. When we now know that as evidenced by how many people actually died in America because of COVID, they clearly didn't work as well as we thought. And all that really did in the long run was hurt the institutions to where if we have another virus or something like that happen, where masks might actually fucking work. If they come out and say wear a mask, we're going to lose millions of Americans because of the fact that they're just not going to trust them.
Because they lied.
Yeah. I have a family member who lost their job because they weren't properly wearing a mask, and a couple took a photo of them and sent it to corporate. Over what is now, as is pretty evident, was bullshit in the first place.
Well, that's what science is now, right? It's just whatever the mainstream says it is.
Another thing I have is so we're doing lightning rounds. Dan, I don't want your response. I'm doing a lightning round.
I'm going to give you a fucking response. I'm part of the show too.
No, I'm just kidding. You can respond.
I was just going to say really quickly that that's become the issue with science. Like, the reason people don't trust science anymore isn't because science is any more relevant, but it's just because science has now been turned into
politicized.
Whatever politics and whatever the narrative is. So now the next time like science is legitimate, and you and I might even be included in this, Corey. The next time science is legitimate and something's real and something's
I'm going to question it.
and data is available, we might not believe it because
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm going to question it in the very least. No matter what the government says at this point, I'm going to question.
Go ahead.
I also want to say that our little back and forth there reminded me of a Seinfeld bit. But and then tips reporting. Yeah. Tips reporting. So the IRS is creating this voluntary program to where companies can now report what they're in the service industry, like for waitresses and stuff. They can report how much their employees are getting in tips to make sure they're compliant. So what we're now going to have to do is make all these people who are getting paid like $3.75 an hour have to keep a hold of all of their fucking receipts to make sure they're on board and reporting their tips appropriately.
Tip cash, folks. Tip cash.
Yeah, always tip cash. Tip cash whenever you can. And then right on the actual receipt, 0. And even put a fuck you in there. But then explain to the waitress your reasoning. Don't just leave 0
This
fuck
is
you and
directly
leave.
to the IRS, not you, sweetheart.
Yeah. It's not for you, sweetheart. What else do I got here? Oh, trans activists stormed the Oklahoma Capitol building.
Was it a violent coup?
I don't know. It looked like it's about as violent as January 6th. I don't know. Actually, January 6th was pretty violent. It looks like there wasn't. They kind of probably just let them in like they did on January 6th. But but it's just the lack of coverage in the news about it. Like it was a hard time even finding any left-wing outlets that covered it. And so I just thought that was frustrating because it's like, looks like Capitals get all the time because the January 6th wasn't the first time a Capitol was stormed. There was times before that, and there's been times after that, but that one, because it's politically beneficial, is the one.
They're on the right side. You're on the right side of history, Corey. Violent coups are okay when you're on the right side of history.
Right. What do I have here? I'm going through all of my notes because I get a second to actually talk about something. I guess that's it. That's all I have right now.
I gotta go get drunk with my neighbor. We gotta kill this deal. This is a fantastic episode. Hope all of our new listeners enjoyed it. All of our new Twitch viewers. Corey, before we go, tell the people where they can find us.
Yeah, Libservative Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, Instagram and Twitter at Libservative Pod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today. And since this is the end of the episode, not necessary for the live stream, but if you're listening on the podcast, before you hop into your next podcast, make sure to give us a little 5-star review. Just a little bit of love. Just a little bit of pillow talk. Give us a little bit of love.
Hard just hearing you talk about it. And a special thanks to our Googler extraordinaire / producer /
yeah, this actually went really well. We're falling into the fold real quick here.
/ whatever title we decide to give him in the future. Bell, the body.
I think you called him a bitch last week.
Bell's body stature.
Awesome, but
the producer. He's our. We keep saying Jamie from the Joe Rogan podcast because there isn't a definitive title for a podcast for that role. That he's our Jamie.
We'll figure it out.
And he did a damn good job.
He, as always, is Corey Walsh.
And he's Dan Griffin. And that's Bell.
That's Bell. Then this has been Libservative. And until next time, we are out of here.